Welcome back to another episode of Cheapin' with Cool Guy. Coming at you from Cool Guy's basement. Today we're going to reinstall the OEM windshield into the frame. This is something that I've done before on the previous CJ, the 84, and I kind of fumbled my way through it. Was successful on it, so I'm going to do that again today and show you how I did it. This is going to be an interesting scenario because I have a crack about 1.5 inches long right here, right where the driver's rear view mirror mounts. It's on the inside of the windshield, which I think is really kind of interesting. But anyways, so if I can get this installed without cracking this all the way through, major bonus points. So let's get to it. We're going to need a couple things. Dawn liquid detergent or some kind of dishwasher detergent, the liquid kind. That is purely for lubrication. Soap, liquid soap like this works really well. Dawn works exceptionally well for it. And then you're going to need a nice long set, I'm going to say about, I don't know, 10 feet, 12 feet of pretty thin nylon rope. This is what we're going to use as our gasket pole as we go around the windshield and pull the gasket up over the inner lip of the frame. Before we go anywhere, let's talk about the seal itself. There's 3 that are available out there. Crown, Omixeta, and Fairchild. I got this off of Rock Auto, and you can also get it on Quadratech and all the other ones. This is the Fairchild one. From what I've seen with the reviews, this one fits the best, and it's the one that I put on the 84, and I'm going to put another one on the 79 here. But this is made by Fairchild. It's well made, good quality rubber, and it fits very snugly. There's 2 channels on this seal. The inner one, which is actually the thicker one, is the one that you insert the windshield into. That's actually the inside of the seal. The second is the channel that we are going to insert our string and our soap lubricant into, and then this is going to be pulled up around the inner lip of the windshield frame. So here's our windshield frame, all painted and ready to go. This is the inside of the windshield frame. You can tell because you've got the little air access ports for the window wiper arms. This is actually going to go down over the top or sitting on the windshield itself, just like that. I'm going to recommend that you do this on a very flat surface. So you want to have the windshield inside of the seal sitting on a flat surface. I'm using just a tabletop for this, and then you set the windshield frame down over the top of it. The windshield seal is going to sit outside of the frame by about 1/4 inch. So what this does is it actually elevates the frame up off of the table, the flat surface, and also gives you a lot easier ability to pull that lip over the inner frame lip of the windshield frame. One thing to note, there is a little safety icon on here that's been etched into the glass, at least on the original OEM windshields. You pretty much have them on all the cars out there, but it's like safety flow or whatever that may be. That should be facing outwards and on the passenger side of the windshield. So the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I actually did it backwards the first time on the 84, so I had to take the windshield back out and then reinstall it the right way. Don't make that mistake. Really kind of stupid. Anyways, moving on. So now that we've got the orientation right, what you need to do is take your nylon string, run that along the inside of the channel, that mounting channel lip, get it all the way down into the deepest part of this lip, and wrap it all the way around, and then bring it back to where you have the beginning and the end in one of the corners. Also, while you're doing this, make it a little bit easier on yourself. Get a little cup of water, put some soap on it, and then run this along the inside of the channel as you are pushing the string into place. You'll find it slides a lot easier. But you want to make sure that you get that string all the way and as deep as you can into that groove, that channel. As you're doing this, make sure you get plenty of soap and water into this channel. Do not be afraid of putting too much in there, because the smoother, the more lubricated you make it, the easier it's going to be for you. Okay, so now that we've got this overlapped, I'm going to have it overlapped right here in what I'm going to use as my starting corner. Just like that. So I got the beginning and the end coming out in the same spot. Now to also make it a little bit easier, run a little bit of some soap and water around this inner edge of the windshield frame, because this is the part that you're going to have to pull up over the lip of the windshield frame, and the more lubricated this is, easier it's going to be able to slide. Alright, just finish up. Make sure you run your fingers around the edge a couple times just to make sure that you've got enough lubrication on there. This is kind of like paint prep. The more time you put into it and the proper process, easier it should be. And since I've got this crack in this windshield, I need to make sure that this is as effortless as possible. Alright, now that I've got this all into place, I'm going to bring my 2 lengths of string to the inside of the windshield. Position my frame into place. Alright, I'm going to start this by hand. Let's see if I can do it that way. Just trying to get my finger up and around there and just try and wedge this thing into there, kind of pull it along. What I want to do is I want to put some weight on this, not a lot, but just enough to keep that gasket from slipping out. Pull this along. So you see how I've got it up over the edge here? That's pretty cool, that's good. So I'm going to use my finger as the pry piece just to get this thing started. Alright, now I've got it all the way down to this edge. If you let up on this thing, you'll see how the channel kind of starts to slide off the windshield frame. So you want to keep pressure on the top of the frame pushing down, because you're not actually pushing down on the windshield, you're just pushing down on the seal. So now I've gotten into the corner here and I'm starting to get resistant. Another thing that might not be a bad piece to get is like some body molding tools, plastic body molding tools, at least to get it up over this edge so that we can avoid using the string as long as possible. So I'm going to lube this sucker up, see if I can't get it in there and help pull this thing up and over. But just go slow. Work this nice and easy. You don't want to force this any more than you have to. So now I'm going to start using the string. Now the challenge here is that as I try and pull this string through, using it to pull the lip up over the top of the windshield frame, it's going to pull through on the other side. I'm going to actually use a bolt as an anchor. Alright, so I'm going to use one of the windshield hold down bracket bolts as my anchor. And I'm going to take the other end of the line, tie it around this thing so that it doesn't move. Alright, that's not going anywhere. So I'm going to draw it tight here. Alright, cool. That's what I wanted it to do. Perfect. Now this string won't go anywhere when I put tension on the other end. Now moving on to this side again. Now if I recall from the first time I did this, I went with a looping motion. So you just kind of pull the gasket up around the edge little by little. Yeah, it's going to be kind of tough. This first corner is probably the hardest one because there's going to be the most amount of tension on that rope. So I'm going to go with the body trim piece and just slowly wedge this up. Make sure you got this thing lubricated so you let that soap do its job little by little. Making progress, not quick, but we're making progress. Kind of making like a J type motion with the plastic trim tool. And the reason I'm using plastic, you definitely don't want to use like a screwdriver or anything like that, because one, you'll tear your paint up. Two, you'll rip the gasket easily. So let's see if we can start using the string. This is just not going to work the way I was hoping it to. Worked pretty well the first time, but not this time. So I'm just going to keep using this trim tool. Alright, I've worked my way up around the top corner of the windshield. It's taken me a little while to kind of get a feel for this or a rhythm for it. So what I'm using is a screwdriver as a pull on the string because it was just cutting into my hands. What I'm recommending you do is go for a little bit thicker string than this. I think that I went with too small of a string just because it's really tight. It's kind of toothing up the end of the gasket. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping all the stuff as wet as I can, and then I'm using the body tool to lift and the screwdriver with the string to pull the lip up and over. And then kind of cross stitch it if you want to call it that. Move it down underneath and then pull it up. Right, about halfway across the top, and further developed my technique. One thing I did do about this body trim piece is I noticed that it had a really sharp, hard edge on it, and there were a couple spots where I chipped the paint, so I'm a little ticked about that. But what I did is I took a file and I took the edge off of it, rounded these corners off of it, and since I did that, I haven't chipped any of paint. So that's what I'd recommend if you're going to use one of these things. So what I do is I lift, hold it up, and then I do like a J motion with the string and kind of pull the gasket up and around. Slow going, but it's working. Here we are, folks. Running third and heading to home. Almost there. One thing to remember as you're going along this thing, it's taking me about an hour to do total. So again, had to figure it out. Get water on the gasket as you, or the seal as you're going around, because this thing dries out as you're going along. And the last thing you want to do is to tear your gasket. So as you're doing this, you'll find periods where you're moving along pretty quick. Then there'll be other times when you're just like, feel like you're not going anywhere. You'd think at this point it would just pop. And there we go. Swing! Crack didn't even move. Well, there you have it, boys and girls. How to install your CJ7 CJ5 CJ8 windshield with seal into the frame. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. Maybe they're professionals and have an easier time at it, but I just saved myself a lot of money doing this, and the technique works. The reason why that I know that it works is because I've already got a small crack in that glass and it didn't move. So that tells me that that was a fairly non-invasive way of installing it. Took me a little while, got some rub marks on my hands, but I didn't really cause any damage and it looks great. So now I'm going to work on fixing that crack and moving on. Now I get to put all the stuff back onto the windshield, like the wipers, the wiper arms, the motor, and all that other fun stuff. If you've done this before, or if you know of a better technique, put it in the comments, because I'd love for the CJ7 community to learn a better way of doing this. I remember seeing some guy putting it on a table and like trying to pull it down the use of gravity, having it on the table, which I thought it was an interesting technique. But hey, you know, to each their own. So if there is a better way of doing this, please let me know so that everybody that watches these videos knows also. And last but not least, like and subscribe. Why? Because it makes me feel good, it makes the CJ7 community smarter, and all things better.